everyone. So my name is Akil Sanifara Irawan and I am from Group 2 with my group mate Alifio Darmawan, and we will be explaining about ethics in marketplace and also discussing about our homework, Archer Daniel's case. So the table of contents for today's discussion would be perfect competition, all of the aspects regarding the perfect competition, monopoly competition, oligopoly competition, oligopoly and public policies, and also the last one, Archer Daniels Midland case. So the first one, we're going to discuss about the perfect competition. So these are the terminologies regarding the perfect competition. The first one is market. Market is a place where buyer and seller exchange goods and services. Um, for these days in digital eras, I think the definition of market could change a little bit because these days we could exchange goods or buy something through digital platforms. So it's not should be an intangible market that we can see, but sometimes we can use digital platforms as well. The next one is perfect competition. Is a free market where the parties, including the buyer and sellers, do not have significant influence in the marketplace. So this is a very important terminology should be kept in mind about the perfect competition. And it's highly related to the next point, which is the equilibrium point. So the equilibrium point is the point where the desired demand of consumers meet the willingness to supply from the suppliers. So the next one is the characters of perfect competition. The first one is many buyers and sellers and no one has substantial influence. And then the next one is all parties can enter and leave the market freely. Buyers and sellers have perfect knowledge of the market, such as prices, quantities, and qualities. Goods being sold are similar to each other, so it's pretty easy for the consumers to look for the substitute of certain goods. And then the next one, cost and benefits are producing and buying. The goods are attached to the buyers and sellers. And the point six is buyers and sellers are utility maximizers. So we believe in utilitarianism in this perfect competition. The point seven is no external parties are involved in regulating the price, quantity, or quality, including government cannot really regulate the price, quantity, or quality. Important note, missing one of these characters, the market is no longer perfect competition. So in order to define a market is perfect competition, they should have these all seven characters. Next is a perfect competition graph. This is very important as well to discuss about the ethics of the perfect competition, but we also have to understand about how the perfect competition market works. So all parties in perfect competition want to achieve the equilibrium point, as you can see in the middle of the intersection between supply and demand. And for example, in certain circumstances, if the price is too high and then there will be no demand, consumers will never gonna buy too or overpriced goods, and then so that the suppliers lower the price to meet the consumer's demand. And then vice versa for the consumers, if the price is too low, there will be no supply because the the easiest logic would be that the suppliers could not get any profit if the price is too low, and then the customers will bid higher prices to meet the supplier's price. So here's the ethics in the perfect competition that we're going to emphasize here is it promotes trust. Basically, the forcing the parties within the market to exchange goods in just is basically with the theory of equilibrium. The agreed price will never going to be a burden for both parties. The equilibrium price is the quantities that consumers want, and also the quantities that the suppliers want to provide. And also with the price of equilibrium is the price that the customers want to purchase in certain quantities, and also the price that the suppliers want to earn as well. And then it promotes utility, maximizing distribution, allocation, and use, and in result, promotes efficiency. As we know, in the perfect competition, there are lots of sellers, there are a lot of distributors, so it promotes efficiency. Everyone could get the goods easily from the consumer's perspective. So it promotes utility. And then the last one is consent, respecting the buyers and sellers' right, free to entry and leave. And then, as I mentioned before, that the perfect competition has a lot of buyers, and also the products are undifferentiated. So they will be easier for the consumers if they want to look for a substitute. So that's just how the ethics in perfect competition. Everyone happy, everyone is in just utility and consent. And then the next one is monopoly competition. Monopolistic competition is kind of um, problematic market condition. The characters for the monopolistic market is that it only has one dominant seller who can influence the market, such as prices, quantities, or quality. And other sellers who want to enter the market suffer from difficulty, probably because they couldn't afford the cost that they should pay, and probably they are difficult. There are difficulties in looking for resources to create certain goods. For example, if here in Indonesia we have PLN or electrical resources, this is not actually happening in Indonesia per se, but also other regions, other countries. There are some markets that are regulated by only one dominant seller, usually government. And to some extent, it could be harmful for the consumers, but also if the monopolistic market or the monopolistic firm, it's being like earned by the government. Usually they offer um, public knowledge. I mean, like the government lets the public knows um, the inside of the firm, so there will be like a proof of accountability. And as I mentioned before, it's pretty problematic market. It has ethical problems. The first one is violating capital justice. Each person does not have equal value of the contribution they made. And then the second one is violating utilitarianism, restricting other cells in the market, halting the distribution process. So because the utilitarianism is being violated, it's kind of because it has only one dominant seller. So other consumers with different level of income or different areas having difficulties in getting this goods or services. So it's violating utilitarianism. And it's also violating negative right by restricting other sellers into the market and forcing consumers to buy their products as they do not have other choices. Um, yes, violating right, because as I mentioned before, it's very difficult to get into the market because of other factors. And for the consumers, they don't have other choices because it's pretty much so different with the perfect competition where they have other substitute, but in the monopolistic market, they basically has only one. And this is very difficult for the consumers to buy goods because they don't have other choices.
So, in the third chapter, we're going to talk about oligopolistic competition. So, what is oligopolistic competition or oligopoly market? It's a form of competition that is very common in big industries where the market is filled with a few firms, could be four or it could be eight, or even more or less. This market could be set as imperfectly competitive markets, where oligopoly itself only represents 5 of 7 perfect competition characters, because there's only few significant sellers, and other sellers are not able to easily enter the market. Oligopoly could be in the form of highly concentrated market, where it is filled with a few large firms, or under the structure of horizontal mergers, where the unification of two or more companies that were formerly competing in the same line of business or market. Then the question that can be asked is how does it affect the customers? or consumers. Highly concentrated oligopoly has a relatively small number of firms. It is relatively easy for the managers of these firms to join forces and act as a unit by explicitly agreeing to set their prices or restrict their output accordingly, for example. We're going to talk about this unfairness or behavior that is anti competitive in the next slide. In this environment, anti competitive behavior may arise through certain ways. First, price fixing, where it could happen where managers from companies in the oligopoly markets meets and agrees on a certain price where this company would sell the products at the same price in the market. It produces the effect of monopoly because the same price for everything in the same for these certain goods that these companies are selling, but there's no improvement in quality. Then manipulation of supply. It is the same to price fixing, but the managers would limit the goods that these companies produce or sells rather than to set the price that they would sell. It would result in the short of supplies of these goods, which means the price would be higher at the end of the day. Market allocation or market division. When companies in an oligopoly market divide up the market among themselves and each agrees to sell only to customers within their own part of the market and not enter the parts allocated to other companies. This can be divided by the territory, customers, and time. Fourth is bad rigging. Is when an auction is rigged by the participant where they already know who will win the auction by agreements or paying off the other competitors. Fifth, exclusive dealing agreement. This is when a firm creates an agreement to sell to a retailer under a certain condition that retailer could not do business with its competitors or any other conditions in which benefits the firm. Sixth, tying arrangement. This is when the seller sells to a buyer under a certain goods under a condition that the buyer agrees to purchase a certain good that these firms offered. It seems simply the buyer could only buy this product under a certain terms or condition in which the terms and condition is to buy the other product that maybe the buyer doesn't want from that company. Seventh, retail price maintenance agreements. This is when manufacturer sells to retailers with a note that the retailers would only sell this product under a certain price. However, it can be still competitive according to the Supreme Court. But still, many economists think that these matters may reduce the competition. Eighth, predatory price discrimination. First, price discrimination is to charge different prices to different buyers for identical goods or services. While doing this in order to kill competitors, it's called the predatory price discrimination. The last one before the last three. Next, bribery. This could happen where a company may bribe government officials to then only buy goods from that company and not their competitors. And then, these last three parts are a part of the fraud triangle. First, pressures and incentives where it may come from, organizational pressure, peer pressure, market conditions, or personal incentives. Second, opportunities, where a person has the ability to carry out the crime, is presented with circumstances that allow the crime to be carried out, and the risk of detection is low, called the opportunities in committing crime. And third, rationalization, where it is countless ways of framing or thinking about one's action that it seems morally justified to oneself and or others. Moving to chapter 4, oligopolies and public policy. There are two policies regarding oligopoly mentioned in the book. First, Sherman Antitrust Act that was passed in 1890 that prohibits competitors from getting together or using monopoly power to keep or expand a monopoly market. This law arises from trust. In this case, trust is alliance of competitive oligopolies that take advantage of monopoly powers in markets such as sugar or salt, and where this progressive movement that's against them push this law. In 1940, antitrust laws were expanded with the Clayton Act, which prohibits price discriminations exclusive dealing contracts, tying agreements, and mergers between companies, which expands the First German antitrust to a broader antitrust law. There are three main views on oligopoly power. First, the do nothing view. This is where people believe that nothing should be done about the economic power held by oligopoly corporation. Second, the antitrust view. This is where they are suspicious of the economic power exerted by oligopoly corporation, and firms that are anti-competitive should be broken up into small companies to create the more competitive market. Third, the regulation view. This view doesn't see the big companies or the oligopolies as a big problem. However, they believe that the government should put regulation to prevent any anti-competitive behavior between these market doers or these competitors.
So for the last part of the presentation, we will explain about the Archer Daniels case. So here are the important points that should be kept in mind about the case of ADM. So in 1995, Archer Daniel Midland became one of the biggest agricultural companies. And in 1989, Dwayne and Michael Andreas, which both are father and son, decided to enter the lysine industry and hired Mark Whitaker as the president for lysine production. Lysine is undifferentiated and the consumers are price sensitive. Undifferentiated means that there will be a lot of substitutes and then the consumers are price sensitive. When the price goes up, the demand will also go lower. And the industry was dominated by only three companies at that moment: Ajinomoto from Japan, Kyowa from Japan, and Miwon from Korea. And then two other corporations went to join the industry, which are Tail from Korea and also ADM, which we are going to discuss right now. And then the price of lysine went down, and these five companies conducted a price fixing strategy meeting with a fake public agenda. And these companies also agreed to limit production. Mark Whitaker became the FBI informer, and parties involved had to follow legal processes. And we will answer some of the questions in the book regarding from our findings and also our considerations. So the question number one is, we have a basic assumption here: 250 million tons of lysine, enough to supply half of the annual worldwide demand. Average demand for lysine per month would be 41.7 million tons. I think there is wrong writing in the book, because in the book it stated that the average demand for lysine per month would be 41.7 tons. It's not in million. So, but here we are going to use the million for the calculation. I think both are fine if you want to calculate it without million or with million, because we don't really know the exact situation. But we are going in this presentation, I will be calculating with 41.7 million instead of 41.7 tons. So one is calculate how much lysine companies were making each month with their price fixing scheme was actually working. So lysine price fixing, they were stating the price would be 1.2 US dollar per pound, with the average worldwide demand per month is 41.7 million tons. So if you convert it times with 2000, I think, for converting tons to pound, there will be 400 million pounds. So each month, earning for price fixing would be 180 million US dollars for price fixing. And then estimate the equilibrium price during the period of case price fixing scheme broke down. So equilibrium price, we estimated that it will be $0.6 or 60 cents per pound of lysine. with the assumptions that equilibrium price before price fixing was already 0.6 US dollar before when at the time of when the EDM entered the market and also jail. The next one is consumers will ask lower price when in excess of supply because as I mentioned before in the graph of economics, when there is excess supply, the consumer will ask for lower price because there are a lot of substitutes and other options. So the next question is also how much license companies would have made each month if license had sold for equilibrium price. So equilibrium price from our estimation is 60 cents or $0.6 and average demand per month is 41.7 million tons, which also converted back to pound would be 400 million pounds. So the license companies earn in the equilibrium price about 50,040 million US dollar. So calculate the difference between the companies made with the price fixing and if had the sold in the equilibrium price. So equilibrium price earning is 50,040 million, price fixing earning is 180 million US dollar, and also the difference between those two would be 40 million dollars. So if they had the price fixing scheme long enough, they will be earning about twice from the equilibrium price. So the next question is estimate the total number of months during the price of fixing periods. So because there is like fluctuations of the prices. So in 1992, September, which is end of summer, stated in the case, to December, which is 4 months, the price fixing was 1.05 US dollar. And then in 1993, July to November, for 5 months is also 1.05 US dollar. And then from December 1993 to April 1995 for 17 months, they got 1.20 US dollars. So the total months this firm's earning from price fixing is approximately 26 months. So what was the monopoly profit the companies took from the consumers? So using the same assumption that we will use 41.7 million tons average demand per month, using the 1.5 US dollar price per pound for 9 months, there will be 750,600 million pounds of demands, and then total earning will be 788,130 million US dollar. And then for the price of 120 US dollar for 17 months, their earning were 1,701,360 US dollar in million also. So there are a lot of money. So the total monopoly profit approximately would be, as you can see from the screen, it's a lot of money. And then explain the fully ethics of the monopoly profits. The case study stated about the price fixing and price setting. The companies were creating agreement in order to keep the price of the license. Because of the price fixing, they also violated about the capital justice, which charging higher prices to earn more profit, and also violating the rights of consumers by forcing consumers to purchase the license in the fixed price. And the last question for the question number one is, did the US and European government fine fully recover the monopoly profits? The ADM's fine is 100 million US dollars for price fixing. And then Andrews and Wilson's were charged 700,000 US dollar for price fixing as well. And then fine for the Korean and Japanese managers, which we got a total for 4 managers. And then they got 300,000 US dollars in total for 4 managers. And then fine from European government for conducting price fixing is 46 million US dollars. So the total fine will be 147 million US dollars, and the monopoly profits is that much. As you can see from the screen, it's pretty far away. So the fines did not cover the monopoly profit data, or the other words. Oh, I think I got a mistyped here. The fines that the government took did not cover the monopoly profit that the companies took.
So question 2 is regarding the factors that cause the companies to commit price fixing, in this case companies and ADM. First, pressure. As it mentioned in the ADM case, ADM faced the issue where the price of Weizen is dropping from $1.03 per pound to around 60 cents per pound. This condition set back ADM around $7 million a month. Whitaker, who's in charge, believes that this might get him fired. This could be considered as the pressure to commit the price fixing. Second, the opportunity. The opportunity may arise because Terry Wilson, one of the managers in ADM, know how to do price fixing, and he's been doing that for a while in ADM. He knows how to get around it, and he knows how to get people together to do it. Also, there are 4 other producers in the market where all of them are losing money due to the decrease of the license price. This creates opportunity for them to do something in order to make money. Third, rationalization. As mentioned before, ADM knows how to perform and have done price fixing before through the hands of the managers, and therefore it can be considered as a normal thing to do in this company and its culture. Question 3. Was Mark Whitaker to blame for what he did? It could be both actually. First, yes, he could be in the wrong as he was responsible for ADM's price fixing and manipulation of supply in the license market, where later the company was found guilty and fined $100 million. In the case of in the point of view of the company, Whitaker has set the companies back $100 million for what Whitaker had committed. Also, Whitaker was found to steal some money from the company, which in itself is a wrong behavior as it is considered as theft. The no side is because, based on the utilitarian view, Whitaker did this in order for him and FBI to uncover the price fixing scheme in this case. And by doing so, it benefits the customer or the consumer who are in the mass party or brought what is called the greater goods. On the other side, it is no. Based on the utilitarian view, Whitaker did this in order for him and FBI able to uncover the price fixing scheme in this case, which benefits the greater goods, in this case, the consumer of license, which is the mass party of the case. However, if we need to choose one, Whitaker is more in the wrong. As the point of view, he trapped in ADM into this situation, and all in all, he's the one that done the price fixing himself, along with him stealing $2.5 million from ADM. So the last question, was Mark Whitaker treated justly? Yes, of course, since I mentioned earlier, Whitaker has committed some serious crime in initiating the price fixing and stolen money from ADM. He got sentenced for both of them. First, for the price fixing, he got sentenced 20 months in prison. And for the stealing money for the theft, he got sentenced to 9 years in prison and returned all the money that he stolen from ADM. So that marks the end of our presentation. Thank you for your attention. If there's any question, please ask during the discussion session. And see you in the class.